commercializing groundbreaking patented harm reduction tobacco products for the world's 1 billion smokers, led by its flagship iBlend reduced nicotine cigarettes and vaporizer pods in development. With us today from the company is Joseph Pandolfino, Chief Executive Officer. With that, I'm going to turn over to the company. The floor is yours, Joe.
Hello, I'm Joseph Pandolfino, CEO and Chairman of Cabbacis, and today's presentation is developing harm reduction products for the world's 1 billion smokers. Some forward-looking statements. That second link on the slide will take you to all our SEC filings if anybody's interested. So Cabbacis is a federally licensed tobacco product manufacturer with 35 issued patents internationally for our iBlend cigarettes and our iBlend vaporizer pods, both of which contain reduced nicotine tobacco and hemp. Reduced nicotine tobacco means tobacco with nicotine content that's about 95% less than conventional cigarette tobacco. We have a proven management team with over 50 years experience in the tobacco space, and we have an established manufacturing facility in Niagara Falls, New York. So I have 35 years in the reduced nicotine space. Michael Moynihan, our VP of R&D, has more than 15 years in the space, and he's an expert in plant genetics. Jack Manley is our CFO. He's been with the company about 3 years and has Big Four auditing experience with Deloitte. So the global tobacco market is obviously huge at just under $1 trillion at retail, and it's still growing. And the US market is greater than $1 billion at retail, and it's also growing. Both markets consist of predominantly cigarettes. The US market about 85%, and the global market about 90% is cigarettes, and the rest is other tobacco products. So a huge potential catalyst for us, although we're not counting on it, is FDA is moving forward with a rule that would cap nicotine levels at 0.7 milligrams per gram of tobacco. That's approximately a 95% reduction from today's popular brands. The public comment period for this actually ended about 3 weeks ago. And if enacted, this would give iBlend distinct product advantages in that we'd be the only tobacco products that have hemp, which we believe improve, I should say, taste characteristics and sensory characteristics. iBlend consists of both tobacco containing 95% less nicotine and hemp, which contains 0.3% THC. So hemp became legal in the United States on the national level in 2018 under the Farm Bill. Our company contracts directly with farmers to grow our tobacco and our hemp. The picture there on the right is actually our tobacco in the field. Regarding the hemp, we have some strains of hemp that contain essentially zero THC. So again, our two products in development are cigarettes and vaporizer pods. We manufacture the iBlend cigarettes at our factory in Niagara Falls, New York. Presently, we're not planning on manufacturing vaporizer pods or vaporizers. We intend to out-license our rights in this area. So iBlend assists in smoking or vaping less, reducing nicotine exposure and dependence, and increasing quit attempts. It may also assist marijuana smokers who also use tobacco to smoke or vape less, although we have not tested the products in this area. So our clinical trial concluded this summer. It was conducted by the Rose Research Center, led by Jed Rose, who actually is a co-inventor of the nicotine patch. And the two major takeaways from the trial is that iBlend significantly reduced cravings for conventional cigarettes, and they were highly rated by smokers for satisfaction. In fact, Dr. Rose made the comment that he was surprised how high our cigarettes rated and compared to other very low nicotine cigarettes that he's tested in the past. So due to the company's extensive patent portfolio, we believe we'll be first to market with the reduced nicotine cigarette containing hemp. No other competing reduced nicotine cigarette with hemp is expected to enter the markets where we have patent protection. So at my former company, myself and Michael Moynihan, our VP of R&D, NIDA came to us, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, which is a component of NIH, and they wanted us to produce a series of cigarettes with 7 nicotine levels. This is strictly a research cigarette. It was never commercialized. And it resulted in dozens of peer-reviewed studies which showed the 2 lowest nicotine contents of Spectrum allowed smokers, to smoke less, reduce their nicotine addiction, and also increase their quit attempts. The Spectrum study results over the last 14 years is actually the basis for the FDA's proposed nicotine mandate. So as mentioned, we completed our clinical trial this summer, and we're planning 2 follow-up studies, a behavioral study and a perception study, to start later this quarter. And upon getting those results from those studies, we plan on filing what's called a PMTA, a pre-market tobacco application, with the FDA. And the regs say we should have a decision in 180 business days, but we're expecting it to be a little longer than that. But hopefully, we'll have some feedback by Q4 of 2026. The modified risk tobacco product pathway, that's another route to go through with FDA. Modified risk is not required to commercialize new products in the United States, but it allows for product claims. So we'll be filing a modified risk a little down the road after we file our PMTA applications. So as I mentioned, our production facility is located in Niagara Falls, New York, for cigarettes. Our machinery does everything from rolling the cigarettes, putting the filter on, and also packaging them. And currently we have all the necessary licenses in place at the location, namely our TTB permit from the U.S. Treasury Department, which allows us to manufacture, sell, and also export cigarettes. So the company owns 35 issued patents worldwide, covering both products. And the 3 most valuable markets in the world are the United States, China, and Europe. And we have at least 1 issued patent in those 3 jurisdictions. And the claims our patents are actually quite wide, where they cover essentially any ratio of reduced nicotine tobacco and hemp. So those are shots of our two of our issued patents. Uh, again, two patent families, one covering cigarettes, the other covering vaporizer pods. It's important to note that we have either issued patents or pending patent applications in countries where approximately two-thirds of the world's 1 billion smokers reside. So in Q1 of 2026, we expect to file two pre-market tobacco applications with FDA, one for our iBlend cigarettes and another for a reduced nicotine cigarette without hemp. Now, internationally, we're going to target a handful of countries, potentially to export products, but most likely to out-license our rights, where we have patent protection. So some select financials we'll go over. The company has 7.1 million shares outstanding. 85% of those are held by insiders. Currently, there's zero outstanding warrants and zero outstanding options. We have no debt other than obviously accruals, so we have a very clean balance sheet. We're targeting 7.5 million, which is 3.75 million shares at $2 per share. And this would give us enough runway for at least 2 years, including the clinical trials that we're planning and some left over for potential acquisition or in the event we need to do another trial. As far as margins go, we expect margins of at least 60% and even higher in the event we export products. So Cabacus has all the pieces in place, including a solid patent portfolio, a seasoned management team to address this huge worldwide market. It's important to note that smoking is still considered the number one cause of premature death in the United States per CDC and the number one cause of premature death in the world per the World Health Organization. So it's obviously a monumental problem. And although we're not saying we have the magic bullet to fix it, we believe we can make a lot of headway in reducing the harm caused by smoking. And if after today you'd like to contact me or the company, there's our contact information. I'd be happy to speak to you. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for the presentation, Joe. Very insightful. Let's turn to some questions here. The first one, obviously, there are some major companies in the tobacco space. What does the competitive environment look like?
Well, we'll just talk about the United States. There's essentially two huge players, Altria, which owns Philip Morris, and also British American Tobacco, which owns Reynolds Tobacco. And yeah, if it wasn't for our patents, it would be virtually impossible, to compete with these companies. But we're confident that with our IP, we could introduce these products in various markets. In the past, I've sold product not only in the United States but Japan, Canada. So I have a very good breadth of knowledge of the tobacco industry, from growing tobacco all the way to marketing.
Okay. And I had a question. So you have the low nicotine iBlend with hemp, and you mentioned that the hemp there's characteristics of hemp that appeal to smokers. So I wonder if you give us a little more color on what those characteristics are. If it was just the low nicotine, do those need that hemp to get the smokers to use that product? Because I didn't, you do mention that you are looking to file for a product without the hemp. So just trying to get some more colors to why the hemp is in there and how that would what appeals to the smokers with the hemp.
Right. So cigarettes with 95% less nicotine. What's lacking is called throat impact. If you ever smoked a cigar and you try to inhale it, that's what throat impact is. So the hemp replaces some of that lacking, sensory characteristics. In our taste panels, smokers preferred the blended cigarette, the I blend, uh, 2 to 1 over the cigarette we produced without hemp. The reason why we're doing filing two applications, it's just to potentially mitigate the regulatory risk where, we want, at the end of the day, we do want the two products, but there's no doubt that the iBlend product is superior to the product without hemp.
Okay. And a question from the audience, why is the reduction so high? Don't smokers crave the missing nicotine?
At the beginning, but after essentially a few days, they modify their smoking behavior. If you go, if you reduce it only about say 80, 85%, they will compensate. So in other words, they'll smoke more cigarettes per day. They'll take, they'll inhale more. At the 95% level, although there may be initial, if someone switches to it exclusively for a few weeks, there may be a little compensation at the beginning, but there's simply not enough nicotine to compensate. So, the smoker learns that, it's really fruitless to, inhale more and smoke more cigarettes. But in the meantime, while they're getting over their nicotine addiction, the the ritual of smoking is very helpful to many smokers. And as far as these nicotine thresholds that I spoke about, um, not that's been proven not only in the spectrum studies, but in various other studies. Where, like I said, if you reduce nicotine by half or even 3/4, the smoker will continuously compensate for the lack of nicotine.
Okay. And how do you plan on selling the product? You plan on going through distributors, smoke shops? Maybe you could give us a little more color on the plans there.
Yeah, in the US, we will go through distributors. I'm actually on the one slide. We're a licensed New York State distributor. I don't expect us to become distributors in many states, but possibly a few more as we get closer to commercialization. And then yes, the 10,000 smoke shops in the United States will definitely be a primary target for marketing the product to the trade.
Okay. And you talk about the two different products, the iBlend cigarettes and the vaporizers. Is there, and it sounds like you have different plans for how you might bring those to market. Is there a significant margin differential on the two different products?
There's likely a higher margin on the pods. Uh, ICOS is the best-selling uh, vaporizer. They're also called heat not burn products. So what they do is they heat the tobacco and they don't burn it. So there's no combustion, and it's universally agreed that inhaling vapor with nicotine is much less harmful than inhaling smoke. The issue is that as I mentioned before, 90% of tobacco users worldwide are cigarettes. So we have both tracks covered. The cigarette path, which is the vast majority of smokers, and then the up and coming, vaporizer path. For instance, Philip Morris introduced IQOS in Japan a few years ago, and it's actually taken about 30% market share, from the cigarette side.
Okay.
In the United States, they've been test marketing it. They're waiting for one more clearance from FDA. So I would estimate within a year uh, they'll be launching IQOS nationally in the United States.
So you mentioned about the FDA approval process. I don't know if you can give us any more color there. And, you talked about the 180 days, but you thought it might be a little bit longer. I mean, what's the kind of the cost of that? And do you have to go through similar approval processes in these international markets?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. To introduce new products, actually, the United States is the most stringent compared to most countries internationally.
Okay. Um, you talked about you have 75 million of annual revenue manufacturing capacity. Maybe you could walk us through what's the process and capital investment needed to expand that capacity.
Well, we would have to replace the entire line. Essentially, we would replace the machine that rolls the cigarette and puts the filter on it. So that would be, depending. There's a lot of used machinery out there, but that would be at least probably a $1 million investment. But at that point, there would be a good problem to have
Right.
if we had to expand.
Okay. And you talked about the current capital raise. What's the timing for that? Are you currently doing it, or is this something that's going to be, coming up here? And when do you think you're going to have that raise complete?
Yeah, so it's about 10% subscribed already. And we have an amendment well, we're filing an amendment with the SEC probably next week. We brought out an investment banker. So we plan on filing that next week. So we're sort of in a little holding pattern at this point until we get requalified with the SEC. So that even our current qualification, that lasts for 1 year. And when we get requalified, the clock starts ticking again. So essentially, a Reg A offering gives you 1 year from the date of qualification,
Okay.
which is really flexible. It's almost like a mini shelf for a fully reporting company.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned about half the raise could be for an acquisition if the opportunity presents itself. What areas would you be looking at for an acquisition?
Well, I believe it was 1/3. Um, Potentially a distributor is really the primary target, where you know having another distributor online where we could push the product through, with them, could be helpful. But again, as I mentioned, the potential machinery need down the road, so that that 1/3 could potentially also be used for any new machinery that may be required.
Okay. And let's finish up with this one, Joe. What's the long-term vision for the company, and how do you see the company evolving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Right. So while we're going through the FDA process, one thing I want to mention about the FDA process: don't confuse the approval process with the phase one, two, three on the drug side. This is, as I mentioned, we filed the PMTA, and because some people think you got to go through all the phases like on the drug side of the agency. It's not like that. So, as I mentioned, hopefully we'll have a commercial product in the U.S. within the next year or so. And in parallel, we plan on, exporting and licensing the product worldwide, and that we really believe it would be, beneficial for public health in most countries. And that's another reason to do the product without hemp. There's a couple countries out there where importing a cigarette with hemp is prohibited. So essentially, having the product without hemp is really a regulatory hedge in some countries.
Great, Joe. We appreciate you taking the time to participate in our conference, and we wish you and the company the best in the future. Thanks again.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, so that's totally outdated. So we've not,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously when we come down in December to do yours again, we'll
Mhm.
have a deck to talk about, and